Emotional. He's never cried on any other deployment.
Mission ready. Thousands of Marines and sailors taking off from San Diego today, taking on an experience of a lifetime. And Torrey Pines State Park is one of the most popular in the state. But are visitors loving it to death?
Ultimately, this play is, I firmly believe that this play is a love story of sorts.
Love hurts. The brutal honesty at the heart of an infamous couple. The unlikely Valentine's Day romance taking center stage in San Diego. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kenny Goldberg. 3 combat ships, dozens of aircraft, and thousands of Marines and sailors set off today from San Diego. They're heading to the Middle East and the Asia-Pacific region. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy has more on the 7-month deployment.
4,500 Marines and sailors bid farewell to family and friends at Naval Base San Diego as they set off on a journey across the ocean. Marines from the 13th Expeditionary Unit at Camp Pendleton and sailors with the Boxer Amphibious Ready Group will provide a U.S. footprint near the Middle East and Western Pacific, ready to respond when needed. The Marines and sailors have been training together for 7 months for every possible scenario they might be called for. That includes embassy evacuations, disaster assistance, and boots on the ground in turbulent Iraq.
Any type of operation, we're able to do it as one team, and that's the critical strength we bring for our nation.
Colonel Anthony Henderson is commander of the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit. He says for 60% of his force, this is their first deployment on a Navy ship. Months of intense training included working with their sailor counterparts and separately.
We start off separate. The Navy goes to sea and does the work with the ships on basic seamanship, and we go to the field and we do basic Marine Corps training. The key is when we come together as a Navy Marine Corps team on these ships.
The routine deployment comes amid increased tensions across the globe and calls by the Pentagon for more troops in Iraq. For some family members, the unknowns of what the force may face are worrisome.
As a mother, I'm scared.
Mar Leone's son is a Marine.
What could happen over there and him being gone and missing his wife and his baby?
This group, fantastic sailors and Marines.
Navy Captain Keith Moore is Commodore of the Amphibious Force. He says the service members are in for an experience of a lifetime.
We've trained, we're mission ready, they're focused, and we're ready to go out, execute mission, protect the American ideals, and we're also going to have some fun.
Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
Gas prices have taken a nosedive in San Diego County in recent weeks. The average price of a gallon of self-serve regular fell to $2.56 today. That's 44 cents cheaper than it was just a month ago. San Diegan Catherine Crawford says she definitely feels the difference.
I have a little Honda Civic, and instead of putting $30 in the tank to fill it up, $35 sometimes, I just put 20 bucks in, and I'm good. And that makes me smile every time.
In Benefield thinks lower gas prices are a big benefit to families.
Because their entertainment, I mean, you can't do anything. Go to a movie show, you can't go to a ball game without costing an arm and a leg and your firstborn child.
The California State Board of Equalization is considering lowering the gas tax by 2.2 cents. They'll take it up at their next meeting later this month. California prosecutors are challenging Governor Jerry Brown's proposed ballot measure aimed at shrinking the state's prison population. In their lawsuit, the California District Attorneys Association claims the initiative Brown announced last month was improperly amended onto an existing ballot measure. The original initiative dealt with juvenile defendants. Brown's measure adds a provision about parole for nonviolent felons. When choosing a hospital, patients might consider factors like location, personal history with a doctor, or the specialists available on site. But there's another question to consider. How well is your personal data being protected? Megan Wood with KPBS news partner iNewsSource has this report on the growing threat of medical data breaches.
Since 2010, at least 30,000 patients in San Diego County have had their medical data compromised. Among those are patients at Rady Children's Hospital, Palomar Health, and Graybill Medical Group.
Unfortunately, we feel that breaches are underreported, not because the organizations don't have integrity, but because they still don't have the best practices in place to even know that they've been compromised.
Velasquez says data breaches happen more often than people may think. Many San Diego residents, like Matthew Norris, don't think about the safety of their personal information on a day-to-day basis.
As long as my kids still get their health care, not really much that I'm worried about, because as long as they're taken care of, it's fine.
These big breaches bring attention and get consumers involved in the conversation and really make them understand that their private, personal, sensitive data is very valuable.
Stolen credit cards with magnetic strips can sell for $1 to $2 on the black market, but high-quality health records can sell for up to $150 each. Velasquez recommends being cautious and to learn what steps you can take to protect your information.
There are so many security offerings that you can use with the organizations that you do business with, but they don't want to overburden their consumers either. So it's up to you as an individual to ask.
For iNewsSource, I'm Investigative Assistant Megan Wood.
San Diego County's planning agency is considering asking voters for a sales tax increase to fund transportation projects. The San Diego Association of Governments presented ideas today about how the extra money may be spent. SANDAG staff presented some options to board members. Some are wary of asking voters for the higher taxes if the tax doesn't give enough money to highways, streets, and roads.
This has got to pass by 2/3 vote in the county. So that hurdle is huge. So people are going to have to go out. We're going to have to sell this thing if we decide we want to move forward in a certain direction.
SANDAG staffers are refining the proposals based on comments from board members and the public. Talk about high tech. Your smartphone could be used to detect earthquakes. KPBS tech reporter David Wagner tells us about a new quake monitoring app.
UC Berkeley seismologists released a new Android app on Friday called MyShake. It uses smartphone accelerometers to detect earthquake tremors. It then relays data about the shaking back to the researchers. Eventually, this app could send out early warning text messages, giving users precious seconds to brace for the next big one. Richard Allen co-authored a new study describing how this app works. He says smartphones are not going to replace more accurate traditional earthquake monitoring systems, but they do have their advantages.
The advantage that they have is that there are millions. There's about 16 million smartphones in California alone.
In contrast, California's early warning system prototype, Shake Alert, has about 400 seismic stations throughout the state. Allen emphasizes that this app is a research project, while Shake Alert is a proven technology. He urges California legislators to fund Shake Alert. Allen says developing nations could really benefit from smartphone quake monitoring.
For example, Nepal, where they had these big damaging earthquakes at the beginning of last year, there's almost no seismic network, but there's 6 million smartphones.
MyShake runs continuously in the background, but Allen says it does not drain smartphone battery. An iPhone app is in the works. David Wagner, KPBS News.
And for more information, go to mikeshake.berkeley.edu. President Barack Obama has granted national monument status to nearly 2 million acres of the California desert. Officials say the move will nearly double the amount of public land that the president has protected since taking office. The Mojave National Trails, Castle Mountains, and Sand to Snow were all designated national monuments. It was a meeting that was nearly 1,000 years in the making. Pope Francis and his Russian Orthodox counterpart, Patriarch Kirill, hugged and kissed when they met this afternoon at the International Airport in Havana, Cuba. Both signed a joint declaration on religious unity. This was the first meeting in recorded history between the heads of the Roman Catholic and Russian Orthodox churches. The two factions of Christianity broke apart in the year 1054. The visit to Cuba was a side trip for Francis on the way to Mexico. His 5-day trip will include a visit to Juarez, right on the border with El Paso, Texas. From our Fronteras partner Cronkite News, reporter Mauricio Casillas gives us a look at the preparations.
On the streets of Ciudad Juarez, anticipation is building as the border city prepares to welcome Pope Francis.
I love the county, I love the city, and the Papa Francisco.
Just outside of the Catedral de Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe, Juarez residents line up to write a special message for the Pope.
Muchas gracias por venir a visitar.
10-year-old Neida Ramirez thanked the Pope for coming to visit her city. This will be the first ever papal visit to the border. It comes as Juarez recovers from years of drug-related violence.
At one moment, Juarez was considered the most dangerous city in the world. I think that the Pope's visit will bring a drastic change to the city.
A city now trying to rebuild its image. The altar where Pope Francis will celebrate Mass is taking shape, right across the border from El Paso, Texas. Construction workers are here 7 days a week. Construction worker Jaime Ibarra says he's proud to be doing very important work. This construction site will be transformed into a sacred place for the thousands of faithful that are coming to hear the Pope speak on that stage back here. Now, over there on the U.S. side of the border, people will be lining up as well to catch a glimpse of the historic moment. Many El Pasoans stopped going to Juarez at the peak of the violence. Now there's hope that Pope Francis will bring the border community together.
We were looking away from them, but with the Pope coming, that'll unify us and make our bond as brothers and sisters even stronger.
And the Pope will no doubt have a strong message about the migrants and refugees who come to the borderland in search of a better life.
He's going to call all parties to come together to bring solutions to the table.
That was Mauricio Casillas reporting from our Fronteras partner Cronkite News. Fronteras stories are made possible through the support from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
The huge gas leak near Porter Ranch seems to be stopped. The California Coastal Commission votes Charles Lester off the island. Rocky Chavez makes a quick exit from the Senate race, and 27 San Diego vets committed suicide in 18 months. Why? Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
Following last night's debate in Wisconsin, both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders sought to appeal to black voters today. Clinton campaigned in Denmark, South Carolina, where she outlined a $125 billion economic revitalization plan. Sanders headlined a forum on race and economic opportunity at a Minneapolis high school. Last night, the pair clashed over their support for Barack Obama as the presidential race shifts towards states with more minority voters.
The kind of criticism that we've heard from Senator Sanders about our president, I expect from Republicans. I do not expect from someone running for the Democratic nomination to succeed President Obama.
Madam Secretary, that is a low blow.
The next Democratic caucus is February 20th in Nevada. Following up on the NFL Raiders' bid to relocate, the team agreed to extend its stay at the Oakland Coliseum for at least one more season. This after failed efforts to move to Los Angeles. The deal still needs approval from the Oakland City Council and Alameda County Board of Supervisors. The Raiders may still get a chance to relocate to LA if the Chargers decide to permanently stay in San Diego. Some of the world's top surfers battled giant waves in Northern California today as they competed in the annual Titans of Mavericks concert. There were plenty of spectacular wipeouts as surfers took on the massive waves. Contestants from all over the world were given just 48 hours notice to get to Half Moon Bay for the competition. Nick Lamb from Santa Cruz was the winner today. No maverick waves in San Diego today, but big waves and rip currents are expected through tomorrow. On land, it felt like another summer in San Diego. Stephanie Olmo has our KPBS weekend weather forecast.
We can expect relatively quiet conditions all across the area as we wrap up this Friday. As we check out the satellite and radar, really not a whole lot going on here. Just patches of clouds rolling right through the region here up further north. I know it's been pretty quiet due to a big area of high pressure in place, a big ridge across the western half of the country that allowed for quiet conditions the past couple of days. But things have changed here today. We are looking at some showery weather continuing across the northwest, but the same cannot be said further on south here in California, especially in Southern California. San Diego, really not a whole lot going on. Clear skies for the most part. Borrego Springs, even further south into Ramona here in California. Now for tonight, we can expect fog to develop throughout the overnight hours and also continuing Saturday morning. So for those heading out and about tomorrow morning, make sure to be careful out there on those roadways, as once again we are looking at dense fog. Temperatures for tonight dropping back to 56 degrees here in the metro area. Temperatures throughout the area here, let's begin around Borrego Springs, is expected to drop back into the middle 40s. 41 your overnight low in Ramona. In Mount Laguna at about 34 degrees for tonight. This is a setup we're looking at as we head into the first half of the weekend. Really not a whole lot going on here. We still continue here with this area of high pressure. This is going to continue to be the story in the southwest. Temperatures will once again be relatively warm all across the Golden State, even expanding throughout much of the Four Corners region. Not a whole lot, just a dry flow will persist here as we head into the weekend. Okay, your 5-day outlook here in the coast. As we check out, as we continue throughout the weekend, temperatures will be warming up. Valentine's Day on Sunday along the coast. We're looking at a mix of sun and clouds. I do remind you also we do have a high surf advisory in place through the weekend, as waves are expected to pick up anywhere from 4 to 7 feet here on Saturday. Temperatures at about 88 degrees to begin the new work week on Monday under bright sunny skies. All right, your 5-day outlook further out, further inland, mostly sunny skies on Sunday. Temperatures warming up gradually into the 80s Sunday, Monday, even Tuesday as well, with plenty of sunshine. Your extended forecast for the mountain on Saturday, keeping temperatures pretty warm in the upper 60s. Can expect a very similar weather pattern to continue for the second half of the weekend. We're looking at bright sunny skies and also keeping things nice and quiet to begin the new work week on Monday. Temperatures, we'll keep it in the middle to upper 60s and then warming up into the low 70s here on Tuesday. At about 71 degrees will be our forecasted high. Last but not least, your 5-day outlook for the desert slopes for the weekend. Partial sunshine Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures warming up into the upper 80s. I'm Stephanie Omo, KPBS News.
Torrey Pines State Reserve is the third most visited state park in California. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says park officials are working hard to keep all those visitors from damaging the fragile resources.
On any given day, Torrey Pines hosts an average of 9,000 people. That number swells on the weekends and holidays and recedes a bit in the middle of the week.
We've got the state beach and the scenic bluffs along the coastline. We've got the state natural reserve, which is basically the hilltop, which is the higher elevation on top of the bluffs and the area surrounding. And then we've got the Los Penasquitos Lagoon.
The reserve can be stunning depending on the weather or time of day, but the park's popularity comes as much from where it is as from what's there. Nestled next to the ocean, the reserve is an island of natural habitat in a sea of civilization.
I think it's the fact that you're in the middle of a big city, but within just a few minutes walk, you can be alone looking at one of the most beautiful views around. Being on top of the bluffs, looking out at the ocean, and you can see from La Jolla up to Oceanside on a clear day. It's really beautiful, sometimes beyond.
That popularity makes the park a financial engine. The reserve generated about $2 million in revenue from parking and passes last year. But the popularity comes with headaches. All those visitors challenge a small state park staff to protect the fragile natural resources.
Oh, wait, we're going to take a picture. Come here.
Ranger Dylan Hardenbrook stands at an overlook and points out at a popular hiking destination. The red outcropping offers commanding and sought-after views of the ocean. He says some visitors are too impatient to get there.
The trail is back up behind us, but they can see a natural shortcut. So they climb over the fence, and you can see the erosion that it's caused down in the front, and then the large trail intersecting both of the Razor Point and the beach trail down below.
Reserve officials spent nearly $100,000 installing what they call needle and thread guide wires along the trails. The thin metal posts have wire strung between them. The idea is to keep hikers from wandering without spoiling the view.
The type of soils and vegetation at Torrey Pines are really susceptible to being trampled upon. The ground is very erosive, and the types of plants take years to decades to recover once they get trampled on.
The local wildlife is another reason to stay on the trails. A resident rattlesnake was making its way through the park on a recent morning. It's not a common sight, but the park celebrates the uncommon. Ecologist Darren Smith says there are 40 plants in the reserve that are rare enough to have special status. One, the shortleaf Dudleya, is only found here in the park and one other nearby location.
And we have several of the rarest plants, in the world, and in California certainly, that grow right out on the open surface here. And it looks like an open, nice place where it's easy to walk to.
Smith says the problem with that is one poorly placed step and a critically endangered plant is dead. But he says protecting habitat, preserving historical sites like the historic Coast Highway, and making the park people-friendly is all part of their job.
So we want people to come here and experience it and enjoy it, but we're tasked with doing that in a manner that they don't, they don't impact and destroy it. And it's very difficult, and it's also very expensive.
Park rangers say more than 90% of the visitors follow the rules. They stay on the paths and enjoy the park with minimal environmental impact. But the park can get 15,000 visitors on a sunny weekend or holiday. Rangers say educating visitors is the key, but they admit that their small staff and volunteer docents can be overwhelmed by the crowds. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Millions of people will get a chance to see a theater piece created by a UCSD professor this weekend. BBC Persian is broadcasting a performance of The Scarlet Stone by UCSD's Sharok Yadagari. It will be shown in Iran, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan. Yadagari grew up in Iran. His dance and theater piece is based on ancient Persian myth and the work of a contemporary Iranian poet. San Diegans can watch it online at 7 p.m. Friday and 3 p.m. Saturday. Love has been called a battlefield. One savage example of that can be found in Edward Albee's play Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? KPBS arts reporter Beth Alcamando says Intrepid Theater Production is calling on a married acting couple to play Albee's famously combative George and Martha.
This is Robert and Deborah Gilmore Smith. They're actors and they're married.
You can put your arm down if you want.
No, I like it.
Okay.
This is George and Martha, the characters they play in Intrepid Theater's new production of Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Oh, Georgie, Porgy, put upon pie.
And so I was really interested in finding people that I thought could not only handle the language, mind the humor for all it's worth, but also could come from that place of love. And it helps that they're married.
Because ultimately, director Christy Yale Cox firmly believes that underneath all the yelling, fighting, and insults, Albee's play is a love story.
It's a play about a 23-year-old marriage and everything that happens within that, and what happens to two people who have issues and have pain, but also really fundamentally love each other and really have fought to stay together and will continue to fight to stay together when the play is over.
Hey!
Well, it's so similar to the way we are.
Well, not really. But having a married couple play George and Martha means they're starting from a genuine place of intimacy.
They're really comfortable with each other. They trust each other.
And that's a major, major factor is the trust. So that we can scream and yell and bang on each other and know that it's okay.
Getting angrier, baby?
It's not the way we live. So it's an interesting kind of experiment to look at what is the glue that holds them together.
Come on over here and give your mommy a big sloppy kiss.
We know each other so well to begin with, so jumping into this kind of an aggressive piece.
You what?
I warned.
Look, do you think I stand warned?
Is much easier, I think, when you have that kind of basis.
George's biggest problem about our son is that deep down in the privatemost pit of his gut, he's not completely sure it's his own kid.
My God, you're a wicked woman.
She's been through a lot in her life. She justifies a lot of the self-centeredness that she tends to live in her life, and has a really unique relationship with her husband, George, in that they really do understand each other. But they are witty and sharp and aggressive, and I think to the outside world there's a sense of how could they make it together?
There's also a fascinating depth to the piece, because underneath it, as a foundation, is a sense of love and care. I mean, these are both really deeply wounded people for very different reasons, and they have found a way to care for each other.
But they really have developed a way of working, a way of responding to each other and communicating that is definitely their own.
In the 1960s, Albie's play stirred controversy for its use of obscenity. And while certain words have become tame by today's standards, it's how the characters use language to injure each other that remains shocking.
It is his ability to use language and emotions as artillery.
It's the brutal honesty and the dig that's in it. The weaponry that comes out is pretty severe.
These are highly intelligent, savvy, well-written, charismatic, funny characters. And so it becomes this really dynamic, certainly at times explosive environment. And that is thrilling. And it's thrilling that it's live theater and that we get to really, as an audience, we get to be in the room with them.
Who's afraid of
You could say this is the perfect Valentine's Day play for people who've had their fill of saccharine romantic confections. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Intrepid Theater's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf runs through March 13th at the Horton Grand Theater. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend.